our first game of these grand finals. As we saw before, Darius tends to start with Triferian War Camp, and of course Kai's are going to be starting things off with the Dreaming Tree. So these guys curving out just like they tend to do, nice and early to start things off.
Yeah, definitely what you want to see is Kaisa. You want to see that 2-drop unit. It does look like it froze. Okay,
It did,
no,
yeah.
we're back. But yeah, so want to see that 2-drop unit. You want to start establishing at least a little bit of a board to force the Darius to punch into you, which makes some of your combat tricks more effective. I actually played this matchup from the Darius side on Thursday at my locals. And the one thing to be really afraid of from the Darius side is those falling stars, right? If your board gets wiped, not only is it making it harder for you to take the points, but if you are going for the baited hook, which, I mean, we've very clearly seen the baited hook, very powerful card in Darius, you don't have units to use your baited hook on. So it gets a little bit scary there. So got to play around the falling stars, got to play around some of the removals. There's like obviously the Void Seekers, the Hextech Rays, all the usual Kaisa stuff. Got to suss out if there's a Cathian Reigns. So a lot of things for the Darius to think of, where Kaisa I think is kind of fine. They're just like, I get to react to what you do.
Yeah, you know, speaking of Kaiser, I like these plays already. You could tell this is a little bit of a higher thinker in terms of a Kaiser player, because usually you would send in a Sentry since you already had the board development nice and early in turn one. Might as well get the Conquer, right? That's the straightforward play, but choosing to lay back and the boogeyman of the meta, those falling stars getting utilized from Darius. It does come at the hefty cost of recycling too, but getting rid of the Kaiser, that recursive card value for her, is not a bad idea. But what I was getting at is Sentry, usually you want to let go of it nice and early, but he's prioritizing it, maybe to me smelling like a cleave on the Dreaming Tree potentially. But we'll see. But Darius is playing so well, and we had no idea he had falling stars in deck, or maybe you did. I did not.
Yeah, we hadn't seen one yet. I do like that a lot. One of the things that Kaisa can do is get a lot of advantage with the Kaisa unit pretty early. Sending in, getting a Conquer. The 4 Might is not the easiest for Darius to go over in these early turns, especially if you're not hitting like the early hook that will cheat out like a Draven or get a Vayne or one of these units that can actually beat over that Kaisa. So being able to remove it with the Falling Star does stop that draw value, as well as making your unit stick around a little bit longer. So definitely good for him. It does come at the cost of your runes, but I think as long as you don't hit that hook early, which it looks like we have whiffed, you don't care that much, right? Because you only need like four runes to work with a turn, right? To play your Legion, to play your extra unit.
Yeah, you know, Darius Fallen Stars giving a taste of his own medicine, and this is what Kaiser does best, getting rid of every single unit on Darius' side, so everything hitting the discard, and it looks like he did indeed save the Sentry for the cleave combo we talked about, so getting one Conquer point and developing a Raven board in the base, but now passing it over to Darius, he doesn't have too many resources, 5 runes, 4 cards, and no units currently on board. Not a position Darius loves to see, of course. Let's see how these next couple turns end up playing out, because so far so good for our Kaiser player.
Yeah, this is not a good spot for the Darius. You don't have the hook to keep giving you value. One of the benefits of hook that I touched on in the volley matchup is that it does get your units out of the battlefields pretty easily. So that does put you out of reach of some of the Kaisa removal, like the Rays and the Seekers. And if you do proactively like play a Watcher, right, because it's just all in your base, you just play it back to your base and then you can push it back up on your next turn. But yeah, whiffing the hook is just really hard here, because you gotta play a fair game. You can't be cheating out those Dravens.
Right, that would be a little bit too much advantage for Darius. Hopefully he sees it sooner than later, because things aren't looking too hot, especially considering the fact that there might just be another Falling Star on hand. Kaiser has plenty to work with, about 5 total cards, plenty runes to utilize those cards, has a Raven Bloom to most likely go ahead and send it into the war camp, and might just elect to leave some of those rooms he has available to him for the opponent's turn, able to keep it nice and safe for things like a Hex Tech Ray or a Void Seeker. Gonna retreat the Sentry for now, keeps it nice and safe, even though I keep saying this, you usually want to just let your Sentry go, but Waffles just want to get more value out of the Sentry. It's not just the card value, he wants to get some points with that little guy.
Yep, hit it. You can hold on to your own units and then use them later to actually trade into. Whereas if you do leave it on the field or on the battlefield, then Darius does have the option to shove up like a captain or something where he is winning the combat right, and then you just clean lost the unit. But if you pull back to base, you can shove it up and maybe trade with like a token if the Darius does choose to leave a token in a battlefield. So definitely don't hate it. Get a little bit more value out of your card. At this point, you're kind of sitting clean. Like against a Darius, I definitely want to be in this position where I actually do have a board established. The Darius doesn't have a lot of cards to work with, and the points are pretty even. So definitely a good spot here for Kaisa. Like the established board, and the two sentries just acting as two mystery cards too. So
Yeah, exactly right. So basically at 3 cards in hand, but actually at 5 cards in hands if you consider the fact that sentries will get them a card once they hit the trash bin. But now Darius has to make some decisions here, because I like the way Waffles is playing. Usually some Kaisers, they're kind of conquer hungry. They want to conquer every chance they get, but Waffles is playing a patient game, saying, I will play these 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 combos. Or game plan rather. I don't need to score unevenly. I don't need to get to 3 just yet. I'm gonna go ahead, just keep developing my base. We know 1 falling star has already been used from Darius. It's very unlikely for him to have another one. But on the other side, the recruit tokens doing what they do best, just sending them nice and easy, almost like sacrificial recruit tokens, getting those 2 conquers. And I believe Darius is up to 4 now. Oh,
yeah, this is what I was talking about. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say a fight might be the champion, but no, it's a Draven instead.
Yep. Don't hate it. Draven's really good in this matchup. Gets out of range of a lot of the Kaiser removal. And speaking of which, he did opt to play it on 7 Might, which is perfect. Now you're out of Falling Star range, which is just what you'd want. And ideally, you will continue to ramp up here and get more power on that. And this is where we do get to see the kind of fruit of Waffles pulling back the Sentry. And as the Sentry is now going to trade 1 for 1 with a token, if he chooses to do so. He might not even want to. He might want to save the body. But you do have that option. Oh, is it a rain?
He played it off to the side, but the simple fact that he recycled a blue and a red means a Cathian Rain has been played. Probably the most devastating card against an aggressive deck like the Darius builds. And just like that, everything he worked so hard for this very last turn has been taken down. There's just 2 recruit tokens, but looking at the current board state of things for this Kaiser player, they're not going to be sticking around too much longer. She is in the driver's seat. Little by little, she's going to keep gaining control of this matchup. And I think even though Darius has some point lead, is not going to be staying around too much longer. Kaiser most likely going to be going up to 4 points herself, tying things up. But look at the hand difference. There's only 2 cards in Darius, and effectively probably 5 cards in hand. Not even considering what the Dreaming Tree can do with things like a Stupefy on your own character can do as well.
Yeah, and now is actually opting to trade the sentries for draws, which I think is totally fine. Does hold on to 1 of them though. Is able to pretty cleanly take the Dreaming Tree here. Does still have a rune up, so there is like a potential recall or a cleave like you said. Or even if you really were down bad for a draw, you could ray your own unit, but I think Waffles is totally fine with where this is. Like, you are not desperate for anything. You're in the commanding position. It's pretty hard for Darius to come back from this. That being said, the Darius champion unit, it's still there. That is still an option. You can play one of these small units, play out the Darius, take a point. Darius, I believe, is still at the... still at the 4 points. So if you are able to score on Score on a battlefield here puts you up to 7. It's still 3 turns away, which is not. Oh, hey, you talked about this before. There's the Kaisa.
That is, and following that up with a matron. So bringing about the Captain Vanguard, if there is a way to try to get this back, is keep developing a massive board, but it just doesn't feel like this board tends to stay around. Granted, we're talking about a little bit higher breakpoints. Instead of the 3 might units, they're both 4 mights, requiring 2 triggers from these falling stars, 2 triggers from a Cathian Rain, so a lot better breakpoints. Feeling a little bit more confident that they're going to be seeing the light of day the following turn, but Kaiser playing so expertly, keeping things in that even thresholds, keeping it from that 6 point, potentially not going to be greedy and conquer the Dreaming Tree this next turn. Keeping those Darius in the back line is most likely the game plan, at least the way they've been playing so far. And a retreat on the okay, just to trigger the Darius, says perhaps he is going to push forward.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because you could have just retreated the unit on the Dreaming Tree, right, and then just gotten the draw. But hey, it's fine, not a big deal. I mean, you're setting up for the push for the game on the next turn, so you can't really be disappointed with this in any way, as the Darius is only on 4 points here, so not only has to conquer on both battlefields, but has to hold on at least one of them.
Yeah, and it honestly looks to me that Waffles is setting up for the Watcher, the Thousand Tail Watcher play. You have plenty of units to take full advantage of a Watcher coming down, minusing 3 might on every single unit. Even if Darius floods the board on War Camp, you're still going to get a full value -3. Even on recruit tokens that normally you're not minusing 3 from anything from recruit tokens, they're actually going to be minusing 2. Or I guess minusing 1. You usually don't minus anything, but you -1 from a recruit on the War Camp. So even if he floods that board, is not looking too promising. Darius trying to do what he can do in this game 1, but I think Kaiser might have just locked this down, only keeping in mind if there is indeed a Thousand Tail Watcher in the hand, which is kind of looking like he's playing towards so far.
Yeah, there could be a Thousand Tail, or as chat has aptly pointed out, you could just opt to full send at 1 battlefield and drop a Time Warp. That would also be an option, as you're going up to 10 on the next. And we have seen a rain. Some Kaisas opt to play more top end, so not quite sure how much top end is being played by Waffles, but 1 to 2 rains and 1 to 2 Time Warps is not out of the question. So with 3 potentially, we're going to see up to 5 cards as 3 in the hand, plus the draw for turn, plus you can just crash the sentry for another card. A lot of opportunities to see one of these kind of win buttons.
Yeah, you said it best. There's a lot of win cons for the Kaiser player. Time Warp, Watcher, maybe even more spells to get rid of these units and then push your units in. Lots to work with. Not too many resources in terms of hand economy though, so not a lot of literal resources, but a lot of potential cards that could close things out. But this is exactly what Darius has to do. It doesn't feel the best knowing that a Watcher could be lurking in the hand of the Kaiser player, but you have to do it. You have to play towards your out. There's one more card in hand. You're tapping it as will be the Poro, maximizing his might with the War Camp. How much total might are we speaking now? So 10, 12, 15 total might on the War Camp. And then on the Dreaming Tree, we have 6, 9, going up to 13 total might. So quite formidable. It's respectable. It's a respectable amount of might. But sometimes when you're talking about a Watcher, 2 Darius is going in for a total of 14 total might. I think this Kaiser player might just be able to get it done. But this is where you do the math. This is where math comes in for Riftbound for certainty.
Yeah, for sure. This definitely... Oh. Okay, so there's the Time Warp.
Wait a minute.
Actually, just should be... There isn't another card to trigger the Dariuses. Is this... what's the math at?
Yeah, wait a second. This is so interesting. He's trying to win off the hold, right? So he sends everything in.
Wait, Okay, is this enough? Maybe this is. So, wait, 12, 13, 14. Oh yeah,
16,
that should
17,
be enough,
18.
right?
It is enough. So as long as one unit holds, he goes up to 7, and then when the turn for Time Worm starts, he goes up to
Yep.
8. So yeah, this is a GG.
Yep. So well played from Waffles there, seeing the win condition with the Time Warp, factoring in and doing the math there, because you do have the +1s from the War Camp and then the +1 on the Student. So that was well done. I don't really think I've seen anybody play 3, but 2 and 2 should be plenty, right? You're by turn 5, turn 4, turn 5, you should have seen at least 1. And as we saw last game, the Time Warp had a really high impact, right? The game was just over because of it.
Yeah, it looked a little bit odd at first, but when you do the math, it was the perfect execution. And this is the best turn 1 Darius could possibly have, a deflected Poro. That way, if you're able to eat, whenever you're able to eat something like a Hex Ray, you're forcing Kaiser to play the fair game, if you will. Instead of just using your Legend ability, you have to take back the clock in terms of rune economy. So I can see this kind of benefiting. And even the Reaver's Row, speaking about benefiting Darius, he also benefits not only from Arena's Greatest, but those Kaisers and Darius of his own could come into play as well. So if there's a game for Darius to take down, it has to be this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good start. The Poro is pretty good. I think you'd probably prefer to see a manufacturer just so you have that extra unit if you do hit the hook on 2, but no hook. That is a Kaisa.
That is a Kaiser. And I know there's a bit of a meme, not too much of a meme, but something known in the community in the Kaiser mirror matches, which could kind of come into play here. It's kind of known whoever lets go of their Kaiser champion first tends to lose the matchup for some reason. So we'll see if that kind of plays along here, because you could kind of say Darius let go of his Kaiser first. But now, following that up, Waffles did deploy their Kaiser of their own, pushing the pace with Yordle onto the Reaver's Row. So 2-2, tying things up. How will Darius follow things up? Can they finally hit that baited hook you've been talking about this whole time? Or are they just going to continue to try to develop the board state in lieu of knowing that something like a Falling Stars might be around the corner? But sometimes you just have to do it though, right?
And that play right there gives us some information on Waffle's hand, as there are a lot of cards there that do make that Kaisa like not good. Like you have the 3 rays, so probably not seeing any rays here, as the ray does end up trading the Kaisa, and you're totally happy with trading a ray plus a Yordle for that. But okay, so at least seeing the seal, which does enable him to trigger the Legion here on the captain. Getting some units out.
Yeah, never a bad time to get a Captain Vanguard. You know, even if there is a Falling Star, it's not super picture perfect ideal for the Kaiser, right? You're gonna either have to play a deflect for the Poro, you're gonna have to choose the Kaiser with the 4 might 2 times, or you're gonna have to just hit the back line and let the 2 units on the battlefield have to fight it out with your 2 units. So we'll see. Of course, Reaver Row might just very well protect Darius's Kaiser Survivor. Throwing it back over, I'm willing to bet we might just see a spell coming out from Waffle's side. Does he have it? Does he have a Falling Stars? Because that would be the best he can do. What would your likely targets be though, NA, if you had a Falling Stars here from the Kaiser player?
So it really depends. I think I would not hate going 2 on 1 trigger onto the Kaisa and 1 onto the captain. Okay. And then trading my Poro in for the Kaisa, and then pushing my own Kaisa up onto Reaver. Hey, there we go. I called it.
You did. Your Darius main for a reason. The back-to-back. If there's a way to play around these spells we were talking about this whole time, is back-to-back. Give 2 friendly units +2. So Kaiser's staying alive, trying to get Voidseeker down, but not only staying alive, you're also plussing 2 on the Pouty Poro, making it that much harder for the Yordle or the Kaiser Survivor on Waffle's side to take it down. You're forcing his hand for something like a cleave, but there it is, the boogeyman spell, Falling Stars. There's already 4 damage on the Survivor on Darius' side, so choosing the 2 likely targets, and those will go down. And oh, this is still not looking good for Darius, because I think from this position you might just send both, but no, okay, just go into Reaver's Row with your champ.
Yeah, no, this is fine. Darius doesn't really have many combat tricks available to him, and most Darius lists opt to play almost no combat tricks. So you're fine just shoving Kaisa up on Reaver's Row, as it's pretty safe. Like, you're safe from the Call of the Week. You can retreat out of combat. There, yeah, there isn't a ton that actually deals with the Kaisa here. And by shoving up
Oh,
the token here, you do kind of play the chicken, right? Like,
yeah.
do I have the spell?
I like this. The bluff is real. You're saying I have a 1 might recruit versus your 4 might Kaiser. Are you staying? Do you want to take the chance that I have a cleave, a hidden blade? What do you think? Are you going to stay, defend with your 4 might unit? Or are you just going to let me conquer the 6? It looks like it wasn't a bluff. A cleave going to be coming down. So going to be trading 1-for-1, allowing the secondary recruit token to come down. To clean things up and get that 6 points. So there is not looking bad, especially considering the fact that you're double points of what Kaiser currently has. But it really depends on these final 3 cards. What can they be? And how much more board can you develop? And there it is, and a baited hook looking good.
This is perfect spot for Darius now. You finally have the hook axis. You haven't had to commit Darius. I mean, not bad at all. The pushing the token up on the Kaisa just is such a hard spot for you as Kaisa, because you really don't want to give up these points, especially on Arena's Greatest, because like just 6 points already. That's if Darius can get enough tokens in base, like hit a captain, hit a matron off the hook. Well, I guess we can't hit a matron.
No,
That
yeah,
is
yeah.
fair,
He
but we
sacrificed Glory Seeker. He sacrificed Glory Seeker, which was played from Legion that had 3 might. So he's looking for a matron right now, which has 4 might, right?
Yeah, and that does set up a GG with a grand stratagem on the next turn, so you do have to be aware of that. Very, very scary position to be in.
Yeah, Waffles has to keep that in mind. Can that final card from Darius' corner be the grand strategy? Not impossible, but there we go. That's step 1. The matron coming out. We did see a Captain Vanguard earlier, so going to be resurrecting it, bringing it back to the base, getting the 2 recruit tokens. I think Darius is looking good, but you still need the grand strategy, or maybe not. There's a lot of units. It might be enough might with something like a simple cleave, perhaps.
Yeah, there are actually quite a few ways here, and it is pretty scary because the Darius champion unit is still available as well. So as long as you can play whatever's in your hand, which is pretty likely because Darius doesn't really play much on the top end, you are able to play that 7-might Darius as well. So Kaisa has a lot to do here. You need to not only clean up this board a little bit, but which is hard because it's on the base, and mostly Kaisa deals with stuff on the battlefields. But you have to also be able to set up enough that they can't just go 1-2 with like a Darius plus a random token.
Yeah. So we'll see. There was no bluffing there. Keeping it straightforward, bringing the recruit back, saving it for something like that potential grand strategy we keep alluding to. I like it though, with the chances of having something in hand that's playable alongside the Darius champion. You're looking good because right now you're forcing Kaisa to try to hold, which she's not comfortable doing. Kaisa's not known for holding. Don't tell the national champion that, because that's how he got the job done, holding things like Start Tip, Peak, and Grove with the God Willow, funny enough. But this is a different situation and a different Kaisa build so far. Waffles put in a tricky position with a Yordle. And maybe, I mean, the best I'm seeing is maybe a Raven Bloom, a Nox is hopeful, and leave open something like a Void Seeker / Hexray. But that might not be enough if Darius sequences properly and goes in little by little instead of going all in. But okay, there's a way to try to do some damage. A Cathian Rain coming down one more time. How much total units can you take down though?
Yeah, unfortunately, this won't clear everything, which is a bit worrying, but I mean, that is kind of best case scenario, right? You do get to clear a lot of stuff. Now there is just a Yordle and a Hopeful, though, because that does tap out Kaisa.
Yeah, let's
deal with the Darius, Hardened Hand. So,
Well, think about the math. He's doing 2 triggers on the matron, 2 triggers on the captain vanguard. So there's 2 triggers left, deciding what those final 2 targets are gonna be. So 4 damage, 4 damage, final 2 triggers. Could he take out 2 final recruits to not have to play the deflect cost is what he's kind of considering right now. That'll leave behind at best 2 recruit tokens, right, for Darius?
I think you have to kill the Poro. If you don't kill the Poro, it's game on board. Because you go, that leaves a Poro plus a token, and you shove up Poro plus token into Yordle, and then you play something from hand, play Darius, conquer with Noxus Hopeful. So that's game on board if you don't kill the Yordle. So does he see it?
Yeah, well said. We'll see if Waffle sees that line. He's taking it out and might just leave the Vanguard alone, saying, I want a little bit more recruit tokens, but he's completely tapped out. I'm not seeing what he potentially seeing. You have to get rid. I mean, let's see. He's doing two triggers. He has 3 left plus 1. He can't do a stupefy. Okay, whoa, wait a second. I didn't realize there was enough to just leave the Vanguard behind. That was 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, that does make sense. 1 Poro, 3 recruit tokens, and the final 2 triggers on the matron.
Yeah, so this should be pretty easy game. Just shove up the captain, play something from hand, and then play Darius.
Exactly.
But, yeah, or Darius and then something from hand.
Yeah, unless it's another Darius and you didn't have enough, but there's 2 cards available and it looks like it will be perhaps another Vanguard, but the Hidden Blade, it doesn't matter to give your opponent more cards when you're closing things out and bringing us to that Grand Finals Game 3. This is exciting stuff. Gonkra trying to be our very first Darius champion. Can he get it done? I mean, Waffles with those Acathian Reigns are going to be problematic, but if there's one player that can do it, it will be your former champion, so we'll see. We got a game 3 on our hands, guys. See why Waffles has made it far. If he went up against the Volibear player, actually, never mind. Volley went undefeated. I was going to say, maybe he kind of inched it out in those games.
Yeah, that's definitely not a battlefield I would really want to play as Kai'Sa this game, but you're in battlefield number 3. You can't tech for every matchup. It might be a little bit worrying as Darius does hold battlefields a little bit better than you, but I mean, both players are excellent and both players have been playing excellent, so I am confident that Waffles has a plan.
Yeah, I think so as well. And you know, the play Darius just made is probably my favorite play to do as a Darius player myself. Playing 2 2-drop units feels so nice, but what doesn't feel nice is having to eat that with the Falling Stars. Pretty much the best opening hand for both these players so far, but the Falling Stars get so much advantage. You were fully tapped out. You thought you developed your board well. Now you're having to start from square one. You got 5 rooms to work with. Let's see what they have. Potentially something like a 2 might or a 2 energy unit. Follow that up with a Captain Vanguard. Or, no. I was going to say Matron with the Darius ability, but you don't really have anything in the discard yet.
Yeah, that feels really bad. If you're Darius there, you really don't. It just feels so bad. But, oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting. We haven't seen this yet, have we?
We have not, and that could be a bit of a sideboard option for Kai'Sa. When they think they could clear your battlefields with those Void Seeker and Hextech Ray, you can react with a Shen, allowing you to hold the battlefield a little bit more likely than you would otherwise, especially considering the fact that you have shield. So if they were pushing forward and they try to counter with things like a spell, you're gonna have to do 5 damage to the Shen. So it could not be too bad. And perhaps it comes into play here with a battlefield that tries to hold things down. Shen is very efficient at holding with the +2 shield, as we mentioned. So can he get some value and maybe get some hull points alongside it? But things aren't looking too crazy for either player. So we'll see how things end up rounding out.
Yeah, this is what I was saying with the early Falling Stars being so detrimental for Darius. Is you really do need to establish the early board presence so that when you do hit a hook or you do start holding battlefields, you actually have units on board to work with. Because Darius is a very board-based deck. You don't hold too many resources in hand. You work with what you have on your board. And having essentially going -2 cards for your opponent using a single card feels really, really bad, really unfortunate. But oh wow, Draven discarded. Okay.
Yeah, perhaps has another one in hand, or just knows you're only at 1 point. Draven's known for having some massive might, but only in the end game. Right now, he's only going to be having 5 total might, which is still decent, but not really where he wants to be. So I can respect letting him go. Pushing forward with Shen, I'm wondering, okay, baited hook. We're seeing some good optimal lines from Darius. Does he want to get rid of the manufacturer? And that he does. So he's going to be looking for a 3 might or less unit from the top of his hands. The best hits I can only imagine. A Captain Vanguard, most likely his best 3 might unit. What else can be a 3 might unit? I'm trying to think about it.
I mean, there's Draven, but as we said, Draven here isn't super good. I think it's just like Draven Captain Vanguard. Yeah, and wow, it doesn't even hit a Captain Vanguard. Instead, we hit a Glory Seeker.
Not the worst, but we did see already 1 falling star, so not too likely for Waffles to have a second falling stars. But if he does, he's going to be able to take care of the Shen and the Glory Seeker. And okay, I think he's going for it. He's saying, if you're going to take another falling star into action, I'm just going to keep putting more and board presence onto my base, getting the Vanguard off. So Falling Star could get rid of 2 units, leaving behind 3. So not too bad, trying to cover all his bases, or just simply trying to optimize his entire rune state and leaving behind just 1 card in hand, which as a Darius player, you always want to make sure there's at least 1 card in hand so that you can activate your Darius champion.
Yeah, thankfully he does get the draw for turn, so you can play that out. But
Right.
nothing up, so Kaisa doesn't need to be afraid of like a falling star or anything. Sorry, falling star back to back like we saw before. Did have to pay a lot of power costs this turn, so we also, as Kaisa, I'm not really afraid of a stratagem closing it out because there's no sealing cost in play. So with 4 Fury runes up, stratagem is going to be dead for a couple turns at the very least. I mean, I would really like to see like an Acathian Rain or something here would be really nasty, or oh my gosh, another falling star.
We almost manifested it. We said it was unlikely, but unlikely is not impossible. And Waffles does indeed have the second falling star, claiming the likely targets, as we said, the Shen and the Glory Seeker, leaving behind 3 total units. I would imagine there was not a third falling stars. If there was, that will not be a very competitive game 3. But let's see. I mean, there's 5 rooms remaining for Waffles. Let's see how he ends up using it this following turn. He lets go of the Raven Bloom. Kind of tells us that he probably has another 2 cost unit to play. Perhaps something like a 2 might follow that up with a hopeful first, since he already played the falling star already. And leaving perhaps 3 open for a counter spell like a Void Seeker / Hexray. Things are not looking too bad for Kaiser. She's looking pretty strong driver's seat so far.
Yeah, this is pretty rough for Darius, but I would not count it out. As we saw, Darius can have some very explosive turns with the Matron and the Captain, and Darius should be able to at least score 1 point this turn. As that sentry is kind of a gimme, right? You just say, hey, I'm pushing this up for the point. You're going to take it, but that's fine because I got a draw and a point out of it. So not too big of a deal. I will say the runes for Kaisa, because they did have to pay aggressively for the falling stars, is we really aren't at risk of a time warp on the next turn. It would have to be, again, 2 turns from now. Ooh, okay, Void Seeker. Aggressively saying you are not taking this point. I like it. Now you do have to trade in a token if you do want this battlefield.
Yeah, and I'm almost wishing, does he want to bluff a little bit, saying, I have 1 rune available to me. I have to play it. But okay, getting the sealed, floating 1 mana, most importantly, triggering the Darius. So going into Son Warren, so knows you can't retreat like the previous Reaver's Row. Matron goes, hits the discard. What did he draw? Is there something like a cleave available? At the very least, you can send 2 recruit tokens into the sentry to try to get the 4th point online for Darius, but it doesn't look too promising because you do have to follow that up with a hold if you can, but those units are known for being strong holders. And Darius with only 5 might doesn't look like he could hold too much either. The only upside though, Waffles has expended so many runes as you mentioned that he can't even Watcher this next turn, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, though Darius really shouldn't leave much up. Yeah, it's just going to be the Darius in the battlefield. Going to opt to kill the token with the hook. Unfortunately, killing a token without the war camp, there aren't too many good hits. You can hit like the manufacturer, you can hit like the Poro, you can hit a Glory Seeker, but
he misses. That is a feels bad moment. You never want to miss from your baited hook, but it does happen when you're only sacrificing a 1 might unit.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, but it's kind of bound to happen eventually, especially when you do sack those 1 might tokens. Not a ton of options, especially since a fair number of the 2 might cards have kind of been used already. Like we saw the Poro, we saw I think a couple Glory Seekers, definitely a fair number of them out of the deck. But yep, Darius into Darius. Oof, not looking good.
Yeah, not looking good indeed. It looks like Kai's going to be able to go up to her 5th point. She has been playing the even game, if you will, so I wouldn't blame her to not push forward with one of these Raven Blooms. Oh, never mind. The conquer point from Darius was her 5th point. And actually, I had that already. So this would be her 6th point. So indeed playing the even game. So pushes forward with the Raven Bloom, locked in the 6th point and leaving 1 rune at the ready for something like a Hextech Ray, potentially even a Stupefy. But there's only 1 recruit token and 2 cards in hand. You don't have your champion in your champion zone anymore. I mean, I'm just not seeing it. Darius being a victim of 2 falling stars. Not a lot of decks, especially not a lot of aggressive decks can handle that kind of fury. So we'll see perhaps some baited hook high rolls, but even a Draven, we haven't seen too many Veins. And Shen, usually kind of good as a reaction play, just getting played out. But I don't love it. It looks like he's going to play it as a sacrificial lamb for the baited hook. He can hit up to something with 4. The best hits, as we mentioned before, is looking like a Matron. Does he high roll a little bit and hit a Matron to try to stay in this game? Your opponent's at 6, though. This is rough.
Yeah, it definitely has to be a Vayne or a Kaisa, one of your accelerate options, so you can actually contest a battlefield. But this still doesn't feel good, especially with my opponent having 1 up. This Vayne is in danger of a Hextech Ray. He's going to die. But you don't have a lot of options, so you just kind of take what you got. For the follow-up turn, I mean, there's going to be up to 8 on Kaisa, so there's the accelerated Watcher. It's rough. It's rough out there.
Yeah, it's rough in the streets for Darius, so he does have to be mindful of all those options. Even if you do conquer one of these battlefields will be held to 7. He has a hopeful in the back. He has potentially another Darius champion in the hand. I think Kai's looking to lock things down and taking her 2nd finals in a row. I won't speak too soon, but looking rather likely to make matters worse. I don't even think this Vayne is going to be able to trade 1 for 1 as it goes down. And I think Gonkra, seeing the writings on the walls, he's had enough. And Waffles, 1337 Waffles coming through with the Kai'Sa legend and doing what she does best, taking down tournaments. To be fair, he played it expertly. I love the plays coming out from Waffles, so well earned, well played, but nothing to take away from Darius. This player did amazing as well. Really good stuff today.